Facebook community. Welcome back to Finding Balance in Quarantine. I am Dr. Zoe Crawford.
And I'm Dr. Cassie Shanko. We are your doctors of physical therapy in Lakeway, Texas. And anything else to intro?
No, just that, as you know, we're here at Body Balance Physical Therapy in Lakeway. We are going to again, we had a lot of information last week, and we hope to kind of build and continue on with what we were discussing last week.
So, the main thing that we really like to, as Body Balance, we like to have balance in our posture and in the rest of our life. But with posture specifically, as a recap, we talked about sitting posture with all of your blocks being stacked up on top of each other so that gravity can do the work and just let you rest in your posture. And that was more so with your sitting posture. And today we are going to apply that to walking and moving and exercising. So I'm going to stand up and show you. We did this last week. So as you're standing in line, thinking about where your center of gravity is. So is your weight more on one side or is it more on the other, but trying to make sure that it's centered between both feet. And then also from the side, you can see that you want to make sure that your ear is in line with your shoulder, which is in line with your hip, knee to the ankle. Sometimes you can present like this, or kind of off to the side, and that's when you get not a stacked posture, and all of your muscles are having to work extra to hold you and balance you as you're exercising. So with exercise, walking is one of our favorite things to do because everybody does it and we love to do it. So an exercise that we posted on Facebook earlier this week is an AP weight shift. So with a staggered stance, you are shifting your weight forwards and backwards. So this is a great exercise and we're going to go through it, but the main takeaways that we're going to talk about is one, making sure that you keep a balanced posture, that everything is stacked up. Two, that your muscles are engaging through that and actually helping to propel you and move you so that no energy is lost. And the third thing is making sure that you have an arm swing. So I'm going to kind of dive into all three of those things. So as I said, you want to make sure to keep a stacked posture. So I know Zoe mentioned sometimes that she sees people leading with their hips, but then you can see that everything else is trailing behind. So still keeping the spine stacked up on top of each other as you shift forward and backwards so that my heart and my pelvis are all leading forward as one. Now the other thing with this is where the muscles come into play. So as I'm coming onto my left foot, I should be engaged enough that I can just stand here and balance, that my hips are strong, my calves are strong, my core is strong to keep everything engaged and again not wasting energy or putting extra stresses through structures that don't need to have extra stress put through them.
Right, and you can kind of see, right, so if Cassie doesn't let her hips, right, so part of whenever we're walking, that's a good one. So whenever we're walking, we have to make sure that these muscles and our glutes are doing work. So if she's walking and that hip comes out, right, there we go. So that means that her hip and her trunk are not doing good work. That means that energy and the power through those muscles are not being activated and she's not really using them, right? She's just she's slumping her way through there.
Yes. So you want to be active in your posture.
Right, and we definitely, I'm sure everybody has seen somebody who's walking and that hip is just constantly going out, maybe on both sides. We call that a sassy walk. We want to try to make sure that everything is staying stacked, right? Even as we are walking and we're shifting our weight forward and backwards, everything should kind of stay within this nice, it shouldn't shift out of a certain parameter, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that doesn't mean that you're going to be a statue.
Right.
You do. So the third thing, going into arm swing, which is, I'm glad that we brought this up,
Mm-hmm.
but so you actually, even though you're walking forwards and backwards, you should have rotation in your spine. And so this is going to help with everything, specifically with propelling your movement. So as I have an arm swing, it's creating a little bit of rotation in my spine, and this is going to help propel me to take another step forward. So that, again, going through to make sure that all of those muscles are engaged It's not just my legs, but my trunk is also helping, and my arms are helping, my shoulders are helping to move me forward so that I'm using the least amount of energy. Work smarter, not harder. Anything else to add?
Well, we see this, we don't just look at posture and how we're moving and walking just right in our patients or our clients that we see from an orthopedic standpoint, right? Sports med. We also look at this with our neuro populations. We know that with Parkinson's disease, with stroke, and some of the other movement disorders, there's a lot of loss in this rotation, in this upper body rotation. We call that
stiffness all in through.
Right, and that's kind of how, that's how we connect and how we collectively treat this, is that if we can increase that rotation through the upper body, it means that we're allowing and we're facilitating our clients and our patients to walk with more efficiency. If we don't have that good, we call it a reciprocal gait pattern. That's how your body normally wants to use its muscles. And if we're limiting half of our body in its good walking motion and how those muscles work and how our brain wants to connect with those muscles, then it means that, we're losing energy, we're losing efficiency, and walking in general becomes a lot more taxing.
Yeah,
it becomes challenging.
Yes.
So Cassie we have morphed kind of into you working on that AP weight, so this weight shift, just forward and backwards. And then we also, if we're feeling good and we're feeling confident about our balance and how we are managing that, the more advanced version of this is adding in that full step.
Oh,
so
yes, so I kind of was doing that.
So you can see that we're shifting our weight into that left leg, and then we are moving the right leg forward and backwards. You're shifting your weight forward, and then
try to
back.
Take as long as time as you can standing on that left leg, and then coming back. This is a great balance exercise. And so, kind of tying this all in, once you have energy or once you're moving more efficiently, you can give time to making walking an exercise for your mind, which is what we will talk about next. So once everything is, once you're realizing how you're feeling and with your walking, Zoe will talk about how to be mindful with your walks.
Yeah, so I think that we have to, whenever we go on a walk, or maybe we're going on a walk for exercise, what does that time frame look like? We're encouraging you, because I think that this is a good way to add in our balance, our balance between our activity level and also taking account and giving a little bit of appreciation to our emotional and our mental well-being as well. So connecting these two ideas between kind of adding in a mindful walking, right? I know that kind of Cassie was saying earlier that sometimes we go on a walk or we're trying to exercise and we have this long list of things that we're thinking about. We're planning
or you're worrying, or you're like going over something that happened, a fight that you had with your partner, or some issue that you're just consistently dwelling over, and it's not serving you, it's not really productive. So taking time, Zoe's saying, I even say 5 minutes, but up to 10 or 20 minutes of
just staying connected and connecting in that time frame of being mindful, adding in some meditation to our walking. And we can do this, so I'm going to kind of preface with these things. Remember that we always want you to be safe. So if you don't feel balanced, if you feel a little bit unsteady, make sure you're using your cane or your walker. You can still do this with both of those things. Maybe it means you do it in your home before you move outside. But the idea is that if we can use our surroundings and we can use these little lovely things that come up in our day in order to appreciate and to stay present within while we're walking. So connecting how we're walking, where our energy is going. If every time we try to put our weight through that left leg, you feel like you have to really put a lot of energy into it. That's good, Appreciate it. On your next step, that means maybe try to squeeze your butt cheek on that side. Maybe it means you try to activate your core. Maybe you check in and you're leaning forward a little bit more. So your shoulders come back, you try to stack everything up, you take your next step, and all of a sudden that left side doesn't feel quite as effortful. So appreciating kind of where that energy may or may not be lost is a meditation within itself as we're walking. It also keeps us connected into what's happening in our body from a physical standpoint. so that we're not we're fluttering out and checking in with all of those other emotions that may be coming up with us. We can also appreciate our surroundings, right? If you do feel safe with walking outside, using a mindful walk is a great part of, if we're looking down at the ground, what is it that we're seeing? I know here we have a lot of that crushed granite, and I love walking and trying to pick up the little flecks of the pyrite, right? We get the sun and it reflects off, and there's just these little flecks of gold that are coming through in that crushed granite.
And then, there's other, so sight is one of your senses, but also listening to the birds, or cars aren't very nice, but also just noticing, being aware of all these things is what's the foundation. In order, if you're not aware of what you're processing, then you're not going to be able to change it. So like Zoe was saying, looking at the ground, I like to look for flowers, or maybe like little tumbleweeds are nice, for those moss collections. And so you have sight. Maybe you walk past a bush that has a lovely scent, a flower scent to it, but just noticing all of these things. And then even still, if you take walking as your exercise and you don't want it to make your meditation time, then that's okay too. So that means just setting a timer either at the beginning or the end of the day, every day, just trying to be diligent. 5 minutes, I'm going to sit and process my emotions. Last week we talked about how with all of the things that are going on, you can literally feel the weight of the world on your shoulders with all of your stress, and that builds up into literal neck pain, shoulder pain, headaches, and all these not fun feelings. But if you take time to sit and process what you're feeling and understand what you're feeling, then maybe that can help literally lift some of that weight off of your shoulders. Zoe likes to say, shoo away the bad thoughts. They're like, let them in, but then say, okay, I processed you, we're done with that.
Right, and I think that the other side of that is that if we're always shooing away these thoughts, right? If we're working on a project, maybe it means we're doing a cross stitch. Maybe it means, right, if we are working at home for another group of people, that we have these intrusive thoughts. Maybe there's some worry, maybe there's some feelings and emotion that come in, but we're telling them, no, I'm working on this project right now. I don't want you to bother me right now. We also have to look at that from a complete managing and taking care of ourselves, right? We have to set time in our day to process. We have to set time in our day to say, okay, feelings and thoughts that I was shooing away all day, let me address you. Let's see what these feelings really are. I know that sometimes, right, we've been at home. Luckily, we're kind of back in the clinic more. My husband is also at home, and I needed to just yell. I needed to go and sit in my car, and I needed to holler. I needed to be loud because we live in a very quiet neighborhood, and normally we can get out, we can talk, we can be loud in certain public scenarios. Right now, we don't really have that as an option. So do what you need to do for a time frame during your day that gets rid of whatever emotion that you need. Process, maybe like Cassie said, maybe you use that time frame to look on Facebook, to be on Facebook, Instagram, to watch the news. But have that be your time set, that time set for when you're doing those activities, because then that means that you're processing, and as you're shooing them away, you can also say, I've already dealt with you. I'm done with that emotion, I'm done with that feeling, I've thought about it, I'm okay with it, or maybe I'm not okay with it, but I'm setting it aside for the next day.
Yes.
So it just gives, we still need to process, we need to be okay with not being okay, set a game plan, and then figure out where we need to go from there. So if we're constantly shooing all of these things away, they're still going to be there. You need to process, and you need to find time for them.
Yes. Another tidbit, or last tidbit that I have, is that so with all these things, if you are almost on the other end of the spectrum and consistently thinking about these things, and like I said, dwelling over them, the news and Facebook and social media definitely does not help with that. So just like Zoe said, setting a time and allowing that to be your only time to worry about it. Technology we can use to our advantage in that you are able to make settings to only allow yourself a certain time on application. So I only allow myself 30 minutes a day to Facebook, and then after that 30 minutes, the app literally shuts down. And that's all I have for the day. And then maybe that's how you should also apply with the news, because if you are continually dwelling on these things, and you're not processing them and thinking about how they're affecting you, then it's not going to serve you, and you're not going to be living your best life. And we want that for everybody.
Exactly.
Yes.
So these are the tidbits. This is kind of the information that we have for this week. Next week you get session 3 with Cassie and Zoe. Staying sane in quarantine, so to speak. I do want to say that, I think that everybody, please still be mindful of your interaction and your decisions to go and kind of get back to your normal life. Definitely we appreciate and we are excited about getting our clients and our patients back in the clinic, but we also have to understand safety first. So still make sure that you're doing everything to keep you and everybody around you safe.
Which means washing your hands, not touching your face, washing your hands, washing your hands, washing your hands.
Exactly. So next week, join us here again, 10:30 on Fridays. I do believe that's where we're going to keep it. It seems to be working well for us, and we hope that it's working well for you. And then also, please, if you do live in the Lake Travis area, or even if you don't, you can still join in. Cassie?
I am doing a workshop on knee osteoarthritis through the Lakeway Library on Monday at 10:30. So if you go to their website, I think you should have access to a Zoom link in which you can see me talk about knee osteoarthritis and the exercises that will help manage it and just kind of what the disease is in general. But
we hope to see you here next week, and we will send out an invite to everybody. And other than that, have a lovely weekend and stay safe.